there's Chimney Rock. It looks exactly like the name says. It looks like a chimney just sticking out of the top of a mound. It's still pretty cool though. We have entered into the Southern Ute tribal area. There is something enchanted about it. There is a spirituality that surrounds the Native Americans, and it's beautiful. That's one of the first times I've heard something called exactly what it looks like. I don't know what I was expecting. So many times they name things after things that I don't know why, because the name that they call it doesn't really look like what they're calling it. I guess they were named so long ago that their imagination was better, but no, this really does look like a chimney just sticking right out of a rock. It is obligatory selfie time. No paved road, you have to drive all the way up to the top on a dirt road that has been washboard from use, and it's pretty dang bouncy. I can't really go faster than 7 or 8 miles an hour, but it's pretty. Driving slow just allows me to enjoy more of the beauty, and there is a lot of beauty to behold here. Chimney Rock is much more than just seeing these rocks. There was a pueblo here of about 2,000 people. I stopped to talk with a park ranger at the parking lot. He said several years ago, the Pueblo Indians had come out and said that they believed the word Anasazi actually means enemy in the Navajo language. So they have requested that the Anasazi people no longer be called the Anasazi people. They would prefer them to be referred to as the Pueblo Indians and the ancestral Pueblo Indians. So it was the ancestral Pueblo Indians that lived here starting in about 925 AD. Interesting tidbit of information for you there. He also let me borrow his little plastic guide map, which I thought was pretty cool. The Pueblo Indians were phenomenal with trade. They traded with each other from up to 150 miles away. And in past videos, I showed you some of those locations. I showed you Pecos Ruins, Bandelier, and at some point they got down to Chaco Canyon National Park. Well, it wasn't a national park back then. It was a thriving city. But the Chaco Indians came up here and built some structures. They're not sure if the Chacoans brought their own builders or if they sent an architect and had local builders. They built the ruins that we're hiking up to now. It's just fascinating. More about the Chaco culture later. We're gonna be heading to Chaco Canyon National Park in a few days. According to that ranger's map, we are at stop 13, and it warns that the trail becomes steep from here. Imagine how the people of Chimney Rock carried the enormous amounts of heavy stone, blocks, and water used to build the great house that we're about to see. It says, look towards the parking lot. I don't know where that is. If you look towards the parking lot, Huerfano, that means orphan. Mesa is the farthest mesa visible to the southwest. Well, I guess I made it to the top. These views are awesome.
Hey, how you doing? My name's Danny Dehan. I'm a ranger here at Chimney Rock. My buddy here was asking me what was one of my favorite things about Chimney Rock. And I have to tell you, it's really hard to determine just one. But I think just looking at the way in which these people 1,000 years ago would take the resources that were provided to them and make this world, make this living space livable. They were very resourceful, being able to take all of the resources and really maximize the resources that they had.
At the time when this was an active pueblo, this is what they would use to build a fire on and use the smoke to signal to other tribes. The furthest tribe that you can see here is on the Huerfano Mesa, and that is 65 miles out that way. From there, they had a smokestack that would then signal down to the Chaco area, the Chaco National Park, which we'll go to. It would also go to Mesa Verde, which is where we're going to be tomorrow. And then they also had smoke that they could use to signal to the other areas. Just in this area, there's Yucca House, there's Mesa Verde. Well, there's just a whole bunch out here, all the different dwellings. They wanted to prove that it really was true. So this university student brought in these giant mirrors. He placed one right here with permission from the parks, and then placed one Huerfano Mesa, placed one at Chaco, and then placed one at Mesa Verde, and yes, they were able to communicate that way. She proved that. We are in what was an active volcano area. There is a creek down in here. That creek has a lot of quality mud that they would use to make pottery. These people, when they left this area, it is believed that they made their way down to Mexico City where the Mayans were at. The reason they believe that is because of a feather holder. There is a 6-prong feather holder that is made from this clay that they have found as far south as Mexico City. I didn't realize that these people had migrated down into Mexico City. I asked if the Spaniards had come up this far because we know that they were down there in Salinas and Pecos. There's no evidence of mission churches, but one of the park rangers who lives nearby did find a Spanish cannibal in his backyard not too long ago. This area would have been reserved for the high priest only. To get to here, you would have had to have passed a guardhouse. So yeah, that's pretty big. There are 2 kivas up here. There's this one up here, and then the one below. All these other walls that you see were other either habitations or religious ceremony rooms. They were a spiritual people. They believed that humans were imperfect, but that the heavens were perfect. So a lot of the construction lines up with the heavens. If you look in the kiva, you see these little brick pieces and some of them with logs in it. Those point in the cardinal directions. That particular one is pointing exactly south. From the kiva, the full moon rises perfectly through the 2 towers every 18, I think he said every 18 years. And then if you go to one of the kivas that's further below, during the equinox, the sun fits perfectly in between the 2 chimneys as well. If a high priest had a prediction using the heavens, he could use the smokestacks to signal the other tribes, and then they would send their high priest here. It would take about 5 or 6 days of travel. All of these ruins that you see would have been much taller. This was actually 6 feet deeper, and it's just backfilled to keep the walls from caving in. This exposed brick and rock would not have been exposed. They would have used a rock called caliche. And what we use now to stabilize roads looks like this. Broken down, it would have been made to use as a plaster on these walls. And then they would have used red ochre rock to paint on top of that. There are over 200 structures built here. A lot of them are still buried. A lot of them have been ruined because when this place was originally excavated in the 1920s, they didn't backfill the structures, meaning they didn't put dirt back in them. So 102 years of erosion has destroyed a lot of what wasn't backfilled. Lower down here is where the common person would have lived versus up there where we are at the top with the Chaco ruin. That would have been where the religious leaders and the high society lived.